With Vanguard Zero being out for more than a month and we're 2 seasons in, I think it's the perfect time to give my thoughts about this game.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back, and today we're gonna discuss Vanguard Zero and of course my personal opinion about this game. So in this video I'm gonna explore all the different aspects of said game and give my positive points and negative points about that specific aspect and give you guys a better understanding of what my opinion is about Cardfight Vanguard Zero and if it's a perfect, good or bad game. And before we dive into the subjects, there's one major thing I need to explain and clarify. Whatever minus points or negative points I will amplify or talk about in this video, there is something you need to keep in mind. This is the very first official simulation game that we've got for Cardfight Vanguard. Not something like the 3DS games or Switch games that is basically one iteration and it's done. So after 1 or 2 months, it basically is outdated. No, this is its own entity that keeps getting updated and new packs and new cards and basically will always be relevant. So this is the very first time that we've got something like this. So that's a major plus. So even if it gets 20 minus points or there are a lot of issues with said simulation game, the fact that we've got it is a major big plus. But at the same time, this entire video will be unbiased whatsoever. I might be a Vanguard player, but that doesn't mean that I will give the entire game all the free passes on every problem it has. It's gonna be unfiltered, unbiased opinions and facts about what I think about this specific Cardfight game. So without further ado, let's jump right into the first couple of points, and we're gonna start off with, of course, the core mechanic, the gameplay of Cardfight Vanguard Zero. The more important thing here is that for any player that's very familiar with the paper version of Vanguard, is that a lot of rulings and mechanics change. We've got grade 2s that are basically taunt units as interceptors, grade 3s are triggers, your drive checks don't go to your hand, you have a limited hand size and all that kind of stuff that changes a lot in the ruling. The same that going second draws an extra card on a turn. Doesn't happen in the actual physical game. So that in itself is really hard to grasp once you're already very familiar with Vanguard. And I, as a very experienced player, as I've been playing Vanguard for about 5 years now, it might be hard to make the transition. But the best way to get this transition correct is to see Vanguard Zero as its own unique format. Same as that we have Premium as a format, we have Standard as a format, and now we have Zero as a format, which is exclusively in a digital version. If you see it like that and more as a separate game, then all these changes will make a lot more sense and it suddenly feels less annoying, the fact that certain things don't work the way that they do in the physical game. That's the way how I personally went over certain hurdles when I had some annoyance with certain key core mechanics of Zero. So once you see like that, then my opinion about the gameplay is that it's actually pretty fun. It's fast paced, it opens up for a lot of interesting dynamics, and it's also a very fresh take on the game itself. Because the big uniqueness about Vanguard Zero is that all the core ideas, philosophies and methods and tactics that you have in the physical paper version of Vanguard is completely flipped upside down and reversed in Zero. A good example is that in the actual physical game, you don't want to waste your resources on the earlier turn, so on grade 1 and grade 2 turn, because it's pretty wasteful to use all your resources to power up your columns to swing it with high numbers for your opponent to just say no guard and take 1 damage. That's very wasteful, as you much rather save those resources when your opponent is at 4 or 5 damage when those high power number counts, as he then need to waste a lot of cards in hand. In Zero, that's the complete opposite, as you want to use those resources early on so you can damage them very rapidly on your grade 1 and grade 2 turns, as with the whole damage check where the opponent's numbers will go higher with every single damage. So having multiple columns that hit for high numbers means you will hit over those thresholds more easily, so you rank up damage much quicker, so they are at 5 damage where you can shoot out their PGs from hand. As the longer they are at lower damage, the more value they will get out of their PGs. So those differences are very interesting and make up for a fun gameplay mechanic to have something fresh to Vanguard itself. So I think that's a big plus to Zero, as yes, it takes some time to to get accustomed to it, but once you are accustomed to it, you probably can see the fun in Zero, as it's a fresh take on Vanguard. But in that same vein, my biggest problem with Zero is the fact that there are no interactions. This game is like some other card games out there which are basically a single player passance game where you're just waiting until your opponent is done doing the thing so you can do your thing. You have almost no interactions during your opponent's turn because you cannot guard from hand, and besides that, Vanguard has no trap cards or counter cards or counter spells or whatsoever. They don't really exist. We're starting to get something with the order cards, with blitz orders, but that's, if that's ever going to come to Zero, that's years in the future. So probably not looking all too bright in that aspect. So that's a big problem, especially with the fact that the only ways that you can save yourself or protect yourself is with grade 2s as interceptors or your PGs in hand. And of course we have the occasional heal that can go off, but that's super RNG, so I'm not that fan of it. So that means you basically are left to whim off the chance of RNG if you're gonna survive or not, because if you don't draw into your grade 2s, you're probably dead. If you do not draw into your PGs, you're probably dead. If you do not get your heals active, you're probably dead. And that's about it. So that's the biggest problem that I have with Zero, is that there are no actual interactions. And the biggest example here is, you say for example you're at 5 damage. You have 3 PGs in hand, but you have 4 heals in deck and only 10 cards in deck. That means the chance you get a heal is pretty high. But the game doesn't allow you to activate those PGs or not. So it will force all those PGs from your hand on those attacks that will come your way, and you will survive the turns because you have 3 PGs. But if then for draw for turn you draw into a heal, you basically wasted all your cards for nothing, as you could have taken the damage and then could use those PGs onto the board to maybe swing with more attacks. So there's a problem that you have no control over your PGs. Same can be said if in the early game you get double crit from 1 to 4. Personally, I will then activate a PG so I have more wiggle room for the later turns. But the game doesn't allow you to do that, as it will only activate a PG if you're shot to 5 damage with a crit, or you will get the 6 damage. So yeah, again, the fact that you have no interactions and no playabilities makes counterplaying and some advanced tactics not really possible in Zero. Maybe they will ever change it in the future, but currently that's not the case, so that's a minus point for me. Also a minus point that will come out of this aspect is that there are a lot of broken cards in set 1 that are pretty prevalent right now. And a good example, and basically the major players here, are cards that break your only defense options. And those cards are Silent Tom and Seal Dragon Blockade. As Blockade basically nullifies all your interceptors, so that's one of the 2 defensive options you have out of the window, and Silent Tom's blocks your PGs. So that's again one of the 2 defensive options out of the window. And I think that is not a good design to have in a game where defensive options are already really limited, and to then immediately break core fundamental features of the game. I don't think those cards were initially designed for Zero in mind. Sure, they changed Tom's effect a bit up because grade 0s don't exist in Zero, but yeah, I'm not so sure if that was the smartest play to then nullify PGs. But from that negative point, we can go into a positive point, and that's the fact that they're designing new skills. And we see this already in newer cards, and to some extent the Silent Tom, but that's not a good example. But a better example is of course with the restanders like the Blauw Kluger, Stern Blauw Kluger series that draws cards, as of course drive checks don't go to hand. But a better example is of a card that is going to come in a couple sets that's already out in Japan. That is Chariot. And no, I'm not trying to go on to the different fight meme here. I honestly, before it was a meme, was very hyped and excited about Chariot and the skills it brought to Zero. Because the fact that we're starting to get cards that generate cards out of thin air and then populate the deck again is something that I wished was in the actual physical Vanguard game for the longest of time. And now we're actually gonna see it in Zero, which makes me very happy and wants me to play that specific Dark Regulars deck once it ever comes out in the English format in maybe 2 months or so. And also a thing that I really like about this new game design and this new mechanic for Zero are the grade 3 triggers. And this might be very mundane, as yes, we need triggers, so they put it on grade 3s. But the fact that they put it on grade 3s is already very interesting, as Great Freeze, in most sense, aren't really that exciting to get to in your drive checks. They are basically useless cards. By making those Great Freeze triggers, gives those Great Freeze a lot more value. But the biggest thing that I'm very, very happy with this change is that the fact that you have full control over which Great Free unit will be which trigger. So there is an extra aspect to your deck designing, as there are some actual choices of, do I want to make this unit a crit trigger? Do I want to make this unit a draw trigger, a stand trigger, a heal trigger? Is there some way that I can abuse it if it's a heal trigger? Good example are cards like Adder, Rose, and Cancelot that can shuffle themselves back into the deck. So that's what I really like about the interaction between Great Freeze being triggers, and you have full control over those trigger aspects. So in general sense, this new format Zero, the gameplay, I really like it. But then we get to the second part, which is the gacha system. And yeah, I'm gonna be upfront here, I'm not really a big avid fan of the gacha system in general. But of course, with every negative point, there's a positive point, and with every positive point, there's a negative point. So let's talk about the first positive point about the gacha system within Vanguard Zero. The big thing is, they give tons, and I mean tons, of free rewards. We have this in the rank rewards, we have this in the daily login rewards, we have this in your daily missions, you have this in your quest and all that stuff, where you can keep getting more stuff like gems, crystals, packs, and banners and whatnot, what makes it really, really free to play for a lot of players that don't want to invest a lot of money. And that's also with the energy system that comes to it, where you can create more crystals and other stuff that allows you to build up more resources for the entire game, which is really, really nice. So the reward system and the amount of the rewards that you get, I think is a big, big plus. But from the free stuff, there is a problem, because they do not attain a lot of value. And what I mean with they do not attain a lot of value, yes, we get endless packs, yes, we get a lot of gems, yes, we get these crystals and whatnot, but at the same time, the value behind them can be absolutely insane or absolutely nothing. Because the whole gacha system, what it entices to is that you buy or pull random packs, and the chance that you get something out of your pack is a fixed amount of percentage. And the problem is, that percentage stays the same for every single pull, even though you might pull 1,000 packs. So the problem is, if you're unlucky, you might not get anything. And if you're super lucky, then you have nothing to complain, as you get everything. And because of that, even though they might give you 200 free packs a month, if you just have shitty luck, that 200 free packs gave you 4 doubles. That's it. Or maybe like 20 doubles and 4 triples, and that's about it. So that is a really issue with the gacha mechanic. And at the same time, they don't really encourage you to spend money on the game. So if you bought about 6,000 gems, which is about 90 bucks, then you get 60 packs if you get packs out of that. But the chance that you get something valuable out of it is very slim. And if you want first-hand experience, then check out my unboxing or my unpacking video, because I did 2 100 packs openings, and check the first one out where it opened up from set 1. That opening was abysmal, and I spent some good amount of money on that. And after that video, I was extremely discouraged to even spend one more single dollar on the game, because there is no guarantee that you actually get value out of it. And that, in my honest opinion, doesn't really make it good of a marketing system, or where you want to encourage your players to spend good amounts of money on the game, because you don't give them actual value out of it. Again, that's how gacha works, but I'm personally not a fan of gacha. But luckily, we aren't left to only gacha, as a really nice feature they added on in this game is the crafting system. They allow us to craft cards if we pull an excessive amount of cards. So resources or cards won't go to waste if we pull an excessive amount of cards. You'll always get value out of your cards, which I really like. The only problem is with this part is that it's split per clan. So currently we have 8 clans in Zero at this point. That means you need to collect over 8 clans all the resources. So if you're unlucky and you pull all separate over all the clans, you probably cannot build a complete deck very easily. You probably need to spend a lot of energy, gems, or maybe money to finish your deck to a competitive level, or maybe even playable level. It can also be that you're super unlucky, that you do not pull the cards that you want, and you're stuck playing a clan that you actually didn't want. That's happened with me, as I didn't want to play Royal Paladin, I wanted to play Nova Grappler and Kagero in set 1, but I only pulled Royal Paladin cards, so I was left playing Royal Paladin at set 1 the first 3 weeks. Then I did the whole 100 pack openings, and as you've seen in that video, I pulled nothing, which didn't help me to build any other deck from that video. So I was still stuck playing Royal Paladin for about 4 weeks, 4.5 to be honest, because only the last couple of days of the last season I was able to build the Nova Grappler Riser deck, because I was super lucky to finally get some perfect risers, so I could build that deck. It's not completely finished, as I only have 3 perfect risers and a lot of my Great 3s are budget builds, but at least I have something else to play now besides Royal Paladin. So there is an issue within that whole clan divide of the crystals, but I understand why they do that, as it gives more reasons to buy packs or go out of your way to spend money, because it's much harder to complete everything or complete your deck if you're unlucky. But there is another upside about these crystals, because we have character fights. And these character fights are really awesome because it allows you to farm these crystals on a very fast pace, which are pretty free because you can do it with energy that you get for free. So that's nice that you can at least get cards for absolutely free, but it only will take you a certain amount of time. Sadly, the part is if you're really unlucky and decks become more and more expensive, and with more expensive I mean will be reliant on more and more different triple Rs, it might get to a point where it's impossible to farm your deck through the character fights, because you need way too many gems if you do not have the correct cards. Because from those character fights we go to another issue that I have with the character fights themselves, and that's the hard limits on those character fights. Because very hard and hard are set to a maximum limit of 5 tries per day. And that means you can only get a maximum of 10 triple R gems per clan per day. Doesn't matter if you spend money on it or whatever, you cannot get more, and that's if you have a 100% drop rate on those things, and that's not very likely. You're probably more around the 50 to 60% drop rate on those things, so it can take a long time to be able to get 100 crystals to create a triple R. And then also you need 200 doubles, but the doubles are, you can infinitely farm them, so that will probably be less of an issue. Now from the gacha system, let's dive into the clan events, as we already got 2 clan events behind us, as we've got the Grand Blue clan event and the Spike Brothers clan event within Zero. And honestly, I really like the clan events. They give you an amazing amount of value, and the reason for that is that you get free cards and free packs. Because the way that you can farm them is doing character fights, which allows you to do pack openings within the clan event itself. And they will give you also crystals for that clan, so you might be able to craft some cards. And you don't have to do anything for it, which is really good value in my honest opinion, because it's just free packs, it's free cards and whatever. So really great. So you would think I would love that event 100%. Well, yes and no. Because there is a big problem with clan events in general, which will basically come back to the gacha system itself. And that's, if you are unlucky and you do not get the cards that you need, or you cannot complete the deck, or maybe not get even, maybe only 1 triple R and the whole deck revolves around those cards, you could basically be left with an unplayable bunch of cards. And it might not be a big problem if you do not play that clan or it's not your favorite clan, then you couldn't care less for that. But with Vanguard itself, a game where a lot of the player in the player base can identify them with a specific clan, if that happens to your clan, and that clan happens to be a clan event exclusive clan, then you could basically be screwed out of your favorite clan for a couple of months, and probably even longer, because once the following clan event of your clan comes along, you still need to probably farm those old cards as well if they're key essential cards. In my honest opinion, they could fix this problem very easily if they just allow you to, once a clan event is done, to be able to farm the crystals of that clan in a normal character fight, just like any other clan. Because then, if you missed out on a gacha and you couldn't get the final pieces that you need, don't worry, you can spend all your energy, maybe gems, and pay some extra gems to finish wrapping up your deck, and then play that deck and be ready for the next clan event once that rolls around. Now, the final thing I wanted to address is the ranked fight. So the big PvP mode that basically everybody's playing right now after they finish off the story mode, and where probably most of our time will be spent into. And my honest opinion about ranked fight is, it's pretty good. It's pretty fun. It gives you an insane amount of rewards and a lot of extra stuff because you farm your VP points. Of course, you can do that with character fights as well, but probably ranked is the most fastest and consistent way to rank your to farm your VP. But besides that, if you climb up the ranks and once you are in Legend, every season you get loads of free gems. You get free character sleeves, then also some extra goodies, some extra free packs, and also of course the alternate art card of that season, which happens to be triple Rs of late, which is really nice because that gives free-to-play players also some extra things to work on and also to wrap up their deck if they happen to play that specific clan. So the reward system is really nice for what we get for ranked, especially since it resets every 2 weeks. So you can keep farming twice a month, which can rank up a lot of free packs and a lot of free stuff, which is really nice. But there is a problem with the rank system in general, and depending on what type of player you are, you don't really care for this. And I'm somewhat of a competitive player, so this is somewhat of an issue here. And that's the fact that the rank itself doesn't promote any competitivity. And what I mean with that is that your rank in rank mode, the amount of legends you are, legend 50, legend 70, legend 200, 240, 250, means nothing. It means absolutely nothing in terms of a competitive standpoint. Because the best player in whole Zero can be ranked 25 and one of the worst players can be all the way up to rank 200. Because the legend rank itself only means how many times you spend into the game. Because if you just win 5 games, more than you've lost per set, you go up 1 legend. And that will happen eventually over time. And if you happen to run into multiple VP farmers, you're good to go and you go up a couple of ranks, no problem. And because you cannot go down in ranks, it doesn't really mean anything. Because it basically is who has the most time to sink into this game. That will probably be number 1 in the list in the next coming season. So as a competitive player, I'm not really too excited about the rank system itself, but as just a generic Vanguard player and somewhat of a casual free-to-play player, I'm very excited about this rank system as it gives you a lot of free rewards while you go the distance. That's basically covered all the major points. You might have noticed that I didn't talk about 2 aspects of the game. I didn't talk about the My Room feature as well as the story mode. The My Room feature, I honestly don't use it. I'm not that kind of person that really delves into that kind of customization. If it wasn't in the game, I wouldn't lose sleeper over it. And with the story mode, it's basically a generic story mode. It allows us to get some extra free goodies, but it's just a generic story mode with you fighting the fights that happened in the anime, and that's about it. But my overall opinion about Vanguard Zero, when we wrap everything up in this video, is that I love the game. I've sunk a lot of hours into this game the past 5 weeks. I made it to Legend 10 in the first season after doing all the videos that I'm doing on the channel. And last season I even managed to hit Legend 50, so I got my 4 playsets of alternate art Dragon Egg Overlord. And keep in mind, I'm doing that while making videos daily on this channel and also having a daytime job. So the dedication that I put into this game says enough that I really like this game, that I'm putting that amount of hours into the game. But my main gripe and my issue is basically the gacha system that envelops this game. Vanguard Zero, the game, is awesome, but the gacha system, yeah, that could have been left out in my honest opinion. But that's basically my personal opinion about this game. It's basically, if you like Vanguard and you want something on a digital platform and you want to try it out, I really recommend to play Vanguard Zero. It's pretty good. It's also very newbie friendly as it teaches you all the basics that you need to know. It has a lot of tutorials, a lot of options. You can even try out full finished decks so you can experience what the clan's full capabilities are. And it has also some free-to-play alternatives and potential if you are lucky to some extent. You need to have some luck, but if you got that luck, then this game is definitely free-to-play playable. But that was a long video, but then again, I wanted to go in depth in every single aspect of Vanguard Zero to not give you a simple, oh yeah, this is good, this is bad, this is good. Now, I really wanted to delve into every single aspect of the game for why I think it's good, why I think it's bad, what my problems were, what I really liked about it, and to give you guys an honest opinion, unbiased about this game, even though I was a Vanguard player myself and have been playing Zero for the longest of time. But I don't want to give you guys a wrong example or a wrong opinion to just be positive about the game in general, so I can cover my own ass for whatever reason that might come up here. But again, if you like Vanguard, you probably like Zero, and if you like Zero, then definitely give physical card game Vanguard a try. I will do some interesting videos on the topic very soon, but in the meantime, subscribe to the channel, hitting the bell button to be updated for future video, and of course, slap a like on this video, because that would absolutely help the channel in general. But before we go, I want to give a big shout out to my patrons over at patreon.com/VanguardInsider. You guys are amazing for making everything on this channel possible and sticking around for the longest of time that you've been being a patron. And if you do want to support us a bit more directly, then you can head over to patreon.com/VanguardInsider and become a patron today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one!